Okay, we are in the book of Shmuel Beis. We're in chapter 17, and we've been learning this story of Achitophel giving his advice to Avshalom. And Achitophel's advice was, let's rush and get the job done real fast. That was Achitophel's advice. He wants to do it himself. Even he's ready to kill David, and he's ready to get things rolling. He says, let's go. Let me go to already tonight. I want to take 12,000 men, right? And I want to chase after David. And the good thing is David will be, at this point, he's very exhausted and he's hungry. And I'll get him when he's in a state of weakness. Now, Achitophel, we know that his advice has always been considered the most brilliant advice ever. And it was almost like hearing it straight from Hashem. Even though he wasn't necessarily the most righteous guy, he was a brilliant guy. He knew Torah inside out, but he wasn't exactly righteous. At least as we find out, at least later, that he really was messed up. But and throughout these stories, we see little with the fact that he's joining Avshalom, we definitely see things all along. Now, he has this anger towards David HaMelech, jealousy or anger. Or he wants to be in charge. He wants to be king himself. It seems like he definitely has this idea, and maybe that's why he wants to go and kill David now. We explained that it had to do with the fact that Avshalom might back out in the last minute, and therefore Achitophel wants to kill him himself, kill David himself. But there's also this idea that if Achitophel does kill David, there's always that chance that Achitophel maybe will end up being king. You know, he probably foresaw something in the future, and maybe his descendants will be king. It turns out that Shlomo HaMelech was his great grandson. So maybe he sees something like that he's supposed to be king, and it means his great grandson is going to be king. But maybe and build the base of Hamikdash, maybe he thinks it means him. So he definitely has big ideas and very ambitious, big ego. And Achitophel gave this advice. Now, the advice was proper in the eyes of Avshalom, but yet he still goes and calls Hushai Ho'arki, and Hushai came to Avshalom, and now he tells Hushai what Achitophel advised, and Hushai is going to either agree or disagree. And as we know, the end story is that he's going to disagree and claim, no, we got to try another plan. And Hushai's reason for disagreeing was not because the advice was bad, but because Hushai wants to buy time and he wants to ruin this good advice. So Hushai is going to argue, but not necessarily does he really think his way is a better way. I mean, obviously not. He wants David to win. So Hushai is doing his job, helping out David while giving Avshalom bad advice. Now, we are going to begin on verse 6. So Hushai came to Avshalom. We're in chapter 17, verse 6, 17:6 in the book of Shmuel Beis. So Hushai came to Avshalom, and Avshalom said to him, saying, in this manner has Achitophel spoken, shall we follow his word? If not, then you speak up. So David gives Avshalom gives the opportunity to Hushai to speak. And again, we mentioned last time that Avshalom might have been concerned that maybe he wasn't on the same page as Achitophel about killing David, killing his father. He might have been a little more hesitant. We don't know if he's, according to the opinion that he didn't initially want to kill his father, could be at this point he's still not ready to kill his father, and he's maybe thinking about it, but he's not necessarily ready. So for whatever reason, or maybe Hashem just put it in his mind that he should ask Hushai what Hushai thinks. And here Hushai has this opportunity to save David. So of course he grabs the opportunity. So we're in verse 7 now. Hushai said to Avshalom, this time the advice that Achitophel suggested is not good. Interesting that he says this time. And the reason he said that is because if he just makes it like, what does Achitophel know? Then he's going to lose it right from the beginning, because then he's obviously a fool. We know that Achitophel has very good advice. It's a known thing. It's a fact. So the only way you could maybe mess up his idea, mess up his suggestion, is if you say he's always right, but this time it seems like there's something that maybe he's missing. So that's what he says, that this time the advice that he suggested is not good. Verse 8, Hushai said, you know that your father and his men, they are mighty men, and they are as embittered as a bereaved bear in the field. Your father is a skilled warrior. He will not sleep with the people. So Hushai is telling him, when you corner David, you're basically locking him in and trying to kill him, and he's going to fight back the strongest he ever fought. Because when you give someone a chance to escape, then you have a chance that he'll run away. When you give someone no chance to escape, that's like a bereaved bear looking for his children, his babies.
Powering on. Welcome to Alltech Lansing.
So when you do that to a bear, they fight back the hardest. They fight the strongest ever when they're missing their children, their babies. They're fighting. They're going to fight, as strong as possible. And therefore, David, what are you doing? You're coming to David. You're going to block. You're going to try to get him in a situation where you want to kill him. That is not going to work. He's going to fight back so hard, and he's going to fight the strongest he ever did. And your father is a skilled warrior. He will not sleep with the people. So you're not even going to have the right. You're not even going to find him right away. And the thought that you think you're going to get him when he's weak is not a valid thought. Yes, David.
And Mayam Loé says an interesting thing on verse 6. When he says, shall we do what he says, that would have been enough. But by adding, if not, then you speak, it appears that Avshalom is looking for Hushai to disagree.
Yeah, but why?
Because he has second thoughts about killing his father.
So that's what we were mentioning. Yeah, that there's some reason. What?
Here you can see it in the verse.
You see it in the verse because it says if not.
Right.
Well, how about from the fact that he says speak, that he offers him to speak? I think that itself. I don't know if you have to. Just the fact that he's offering him.
But it would have been enough for him to say, he said such and such. Well, shall we do what he says? But then he adds, if not, you speak, is like he's looking for an escape way. Like,
no, I hear you. I just don't know if you need to go that far, because why would he ever ask if you have the best advisor? You're not going to go to some simple guy and say, and what do you think, you schmo off the street? You're not going to ask the schmo off the street advice. It's like you get the answer from the rabbi, and then you ask the congregant and say, you think that's okay if I like, what is the halach? What do you think the halach is? Hopefully, you're going to follow the expert. But but I hear you. It's interesting. In other words, he says it, and he's probably quoting a commentary that says on that word that in if not, which is an interesting thing. That what was his why do we see? Why would he be saying and if not? In other words, there must be something. There must be something very serious here that's preventing him. So that's definitely what definitely one of the understandings of what's going on here. Okay, so we're going to continue with the next verse where it says that. I wanted to mention there is, interestingly enough, there is a machlokes, a discussion about when you fight a war, are you allowed to close in the enemy from all sides? So the halacha is that you're not allowed to. There is a halacha that you don't. interestingly enough, the Rambam and the Riva, they argue if this is one of the mitzvahs. In other words, is that part of the mitzvah of when you fight a war? Is it included in this idea that you're supposed to leave one side for the enemy to run away, which is similar to this idea over here that, when you come and try to kill David, he's going to be fighting back because he's a bereaved bear in the field that you're not giving him any option to run away. That idea, it's interesting. It's a machlekes if it's counted as one of the 613 mitzvahs. One of the commentaries, the Rambam, explains the reason why the Rambam doesn't count it is because that it's considered one of the logical things is that. I'm sorry, my wife is doing PTA. She's parent-teacher conferences. So the reason for this is that when you, I just lost everyone. Okay, when you put an enemy in the corner and you don't give them an option to run away, what ends up happening is they will fight the hardest, and that will be not a smart idea if you want to win an enemy, because you're putting them in a position that they're going to fight their strongest. So that's a logical reason, and that wouldn't be a mitzvah. That would be just part of logic. In other words, so it's part of the logic of war is not to do that. So the Rambam doesn't count that as a mitzvah because that's part of the idea of winning the war is to do it that way. And that's sort of what we see here, that Hushai is building on the fact that you're doing something that's forcing David to fight his hardest. Okay, so that touches on the interest of Hushai of how he's manipulating this plan of Achitophel and changing and showing how it's not good. And now we're continuing in verse 9.
Rabbi.
Yes.
If a person's worried about self-defense, that this enemy is going to attack them, if they leave them an escape route,
you give an escape route, then what?
They can regroup and attack you again, over and over and over again, if you don't wipe them out, because this is self-defense.
Well, listen, there's a difference between giving them an escape route and letting them run, or killing most of them and letting a few of them run away. You know what I mean? So we're not saying give them an escape route. We're saying just leave them that, don't force them to fight. Give them that thought that they're going to escape. Of course, we still run after them and kill as many as we can. Yes, Ben.
Yeah, I wanted to say, it looks to me like Avshalom is not ready for the fight yet. He's just announced that he's going to be the king. He wants to enjoy the moment and then prepare for the fight.
I think what you're saying is it has some validity. I don't know if I wouldn't use the word enjoy the moment. I see it as he hasn't come to terms with the fact, like he almost isn't sure. He's not sure if it's really true. Like, is this really happening?
Right.
Like, he's not ready to take that next step. He's he's a little nervous, even though he thought he was ready for it. But sometimes when you enter the actual situation, all of a sudden you realize, I don't know if I'm ready for it. So I don't know if he's enjoying the moment. I think he's just nervous to make the wrong decisions and do the wrong thing at this time and maybe lose everyone. It's a delicate and kill his father is also another.
Yeah, he's not ready for the fight yet. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Okay, so now we're going to continue with verse 9. Behold, he is now hiding in one of the pits, or in one of the other hiding places. When the first soldiers fall, whoever hears will say, there has been a calamity among the people who are with Avshalom. So what's going to happen is they're going to fight back. and some of the people from Avshalom are gonna die, and people are gonna hear that. Even if someone is valiant man whose heart is like a lion's heart, it will certainly melt. It'll certainly melt, and for all Israel knows that your father is a mighty man, as are the soldiers who are with him. I would suggest that all of Israel should be gathered to you from Dan to Beersheba, numerous as the sand upon the sea, that you should personally lead the battle. So Hushai wants Avshalom to lead the battle, not Achitophel. Why? So here we have that same idea that if Hushai leads the battle, there's a good chance that if Hushai leads the battle, then there's a good chance that if Avshalom leads the battle, there's a good chance that Avshalom will have second thoughts about killing David, his father. Now, additionally, what we see here also is what is Hushai really saying? He's really saying that we can't rush and do this tonight. We need to get all the people from Dan to Beersheba, from the north all the way to the south. We got to get everyone involved. It's gonna take time. Let's gather all the people. We need to gather people. Let this take time. And by doing that, if we gather all the people and take, and arrange for, so many more soldiers, not your little 12,000 soldiers, but we have the whole people involved. What that means is that we're going to be putting a lot of time and giving time for David to escape. We got to buy time. That's what it's all about over here. We're buying time. Now, not only are we buying time, but what Hushai is doing is, first of all, he's giving the option of Avshalom getting killed because he's putting Avshalom in the war. He's buying time. He's also doing something that's the exact opposite of what the Yetzer Hara tries to get everyone to do. The Yetzer Hara is always telling you, rush, rush, rush. You got to do this fast. It's all if you do it fast enough, then you convince people before they have time to think. And that's how Achitophel is running the show here. He's moving. Okay, we got to now do this. We got to move. Okay, Hebron, we got to go now to the palace. You got to now have relations with all the concubines. Okay, now tonight we're going to already go and fight. He's constantly pushing the next step and pushing his agenda to be able to win and against all the common sense of everyone. Who are they fighting? They're fighting David HaMelech. But if you want to fight common sense, the trick is you got to go real fast. And you'll follow. That's how the Yetzer Hara works. He tells you this is an opportunity. We got to go so fast. You got to be, if you go fast, you don't think so much. So Achitophel's advice was basically trying to get everyone to just, do things without thinking. And by doing that, he's basically trying to convince people to follow his way, even though there are definitely some big question marks to this path. And that's the trick of the Yetzer Hara. Hushai is the opposite. He's saying, no. We're gonna take time. We're gonna let's see, we're gonna get people involved. We're gonna, give ourselves some time, which is really more of the way to do things in a logical way, and make sure that you're not making a mistake. Yes, Ben.
I think Hushai is using the method that Aaron used by the Egel. He says, let's take invite the women to come in and give their jewelry or whatever.
Buying time there also, right?
Yeah.
And so now we are going to continue over here in verse verse 12. Then we will come upon him in one of the places where he is hiding, talking about David, and descend upon him as the dew falls upon the earth. And there will not even be a person. There will not even be a person left of him, of all the men who are with him. Now, and if he will be brought into a city, all of Israel will muster battalions to the city, and we will drag its wall to the Ad Hanacha until not even a pebble will be found there. So basically, we're gonna basically get David HaMelech and kill him. Avshalom and all the men of Israel said, Hushai's suggestion is better. Hushai Hoarki, his suggestion is better than Achitophel's suggestion. For Hashem has ordained to nullify the good advice of Achitophel in order for Hashem to bring calamity upon Avshalom. So this is basically the explanation here. It says clearly that Hashem arranged this. In other words, this doesn't make sense. Why did Avshalom really listen? It was basically Hashem had ordained to nullify the good advice. And so that's really where we are. The secret over here that work is basically because Hashem just made it that way. It's not logical. Now, Hushai then told Sadok and Avyasar the Kayanim, such and such has Achitophel advised, Avshalom and the elders of Israel. I'm sorry, such and such has Achitophel advised Avshalom and the elders of Israel, and such I myself advised. So now send quickly and tell David, saying, do not spend the night in the plains of the wilderness, but you must cross over the Jordan, lest the king, along with all the people who are with him, be swallowed up. So what's happening here is that Hushai now wants the message to go to David because he doesn't know who Achitophel in the end is really gonna, who Avshalom in the end is gonna really follow. Is he gonna follow Achitophel's advice? Is he following his advice? Is he gonna do both? So he wants David to know about both options. And so he tells Sadok and Avyasar about what's going on. And now who is supposed to relay the message of Sadok and Avyasar to David? This is Sadok and Avyasar's kids, Yonasan and Achimaaz. They're staying in Ein Rogel. Let the maidservant go and tell them so that they may go and tell King David, for they should not be observed entering the city. So that's basically what's going on here. They're going to be going to send the message, a secret message, to David. Now, but a youth, verse 18, but a youth saw them, and he told Avshalom, so they both left quickly and came to the house of a man in Bachurim. Bachurim is, of course, a city. He had a well in his courtyard into which they descended. His wife took a curtain and spread it over the opening of the well, and she scattered some groats upon it so that nothing could have been suspected. In other words, it doesn't look like anyone is there. Now, what's going on here is they're hiding. And where are they hiding? They're hiding in a house of someone in Bachurim. It doesn't say who, but the Gemara, the commentaries in the Gemara explain that this is none other than Shimi ben Gera's wife. So Shimi ben Gera, we saw before, he was a relative of Shaul HaMelech, and he was very upset with David, and he was cursing David, thinking that maybe suspecting David of being behind a major all the major events that negative things that happened to Shaul's family, Shimei was cursing David about blaming them, suspecting that David was behind all of them. But Shimei ben Gera's wife was actually very righteous, and because of her, she actually saved the lives of these guys who are going to be giving the information over, and she hid them in the well and covered it over, making it look like this has not been used for a while, and therefore they didn't suspect to look under this covering that was covering them up, and so it looked like it was just there. It was there for a while. She was trying to dry these groats on the on this little curtain that was covering the well. So the bottom line is that they got saved, and she merited, because of this good deed that she did, and obviously she knew what was going on. Her grandchildren are none other than Mordechai and Esther. So Shimei ben Gera, his grandchildren ended up being the famous Mordechai and Esther, even though he was, somewhat wicked in a certain sense, because even though, of course, he was the head of the Sanhedrin, but he did a terrible thing, and he was choosing to curse David HaMelech, and in the end, his grandchildren merited because of his wife. They merited, and I think we mentioned this before. They merited this because of what she did. And now we are on verse. We are in verse 20. When Absalom's servants came to the woman into the house and said, "Where are Achimaaz and Yonasan?" the woman said to them, "They crossed the body of water. They searched but could not find them." So they returned to Jerusalem, and it happened after their departure that they ascended from the well, and they went and told King David. So here we have that David got the message: "Arise and quickly cross the water, for such has Achitophel advised concerning you." So David arose along with all the people who were with him, and they crossed the Jordan by morning's light. Not one person was missing who had not crossed the Jordan. When Achitophel saw that his advice was not carried out, he saddled a donkey and arose and went to his house, to his city. He instructed his family and strangled himself. So he committed suicide. And the reason he committed suicide was because he knew that it's all over. When his advice was not going to be taken, he knew that it was over. He died, and he was buried in his father's grave. And we'll talk more about this tomorrow, God willing. And